Hello and welcome to my channel, Boo Snakes and More. Today we're going to be talking about 10 Far Side comics with the darkest humor. So please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Also watch my other house channel, A&A Snakes and Stuff. My youngest son's channel, He Needs Toys and Games, or my oldest son's channel, Little Christine. Now let's dive into the video. The Far Side is undoubtedly one of the darkest comic strips to ever appear in newspapers, running from December 31st, 1979 to January 1st, 1995. The Far Side provided laughs to readers based on surrealist humor, absurd situations, and amusing wordplay. Creator Gary Lawson officially retired after the final The Far Side strip in 1995. However, he has since occasionally drawn new comics that have been published online. At its heart, The Far Side provided screeching commentary on society and human behavior. People behave in irrational ways, and Lawson often used animals mimicking humans to highlight how absurd those behaviors are. Lawson also liked to shock audiences with his The Far Side cartoons, and the result is some of the darkest comics ever created, many of which would never be published, or which would never get published today. Number 10, The Far Side tells disturbing bear bedtime stories. Parents routinely tell their children bedtime stories at night to help them go to sleep. Bedtime stories are often safe and comforting, so young children can drift off into slumber to the soothing sound of the parents' voices. However, even an innocent bedtime story can take a very dark turn in The Far Side. In one surprising dark The Far Side comic Gary Lawson created a parody of the family bedtime routine by replacing the parents and children with bears. For the bear cubs in this comic strip, a story about two helpless human hunters, who wandered into a bear cave and met their untimely death is hilarious. For humans who could be those hunters, the joke is decidedly darker. Number 9, cockroaches celebrate as humanity destroys itself in The Far Side. The Far Side often held up a mirror to human behavior, but it could also simply play with people's fears. One of the most common fears that people have is a nuclear war and the unfathomable destruction it would cause. For anyone caught within the radius of a nuclear explosion, the bomb would mean instant death. A common belief is that cockroaches can survive almost anything, including a nuclear explosion. The Far Side cartoon turns a horrific event for the human population into a time of celebration for their insect neighbors. While the people all die a fiery death, the cockroaches are dancing and celebrating their inheritance of the earth. Number 8, The Far Side. Recognize dark times ahead for post-colonial Native Americans. Readers of The Far Side tend to appreciate intellectual humor, which is why many Far Side comics rely on historical events to illustrate absurd situations or reactions to events. This dark Far Side comic refers to Europeans' first visit to the Americas on Columbus's ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Most school children learn of Columbus's arrival in the Americas as a joyful event. However, for the native population, the arrival of European colonists proved to be anything but positive. This Far Side comic recognizes the devastating impact of colonization on the Native American population through its subtitle, but incredibly dark humor. Number 7, nursery rhymes get very dark in The Far Side. Mary Had a Little Lamb is one of the most recognizable nursery rhymes in children's songs in Western culture. The rhyme describes Mary with her pet lamb, whose wool was white as snow. The little lamb shows utter devotion to Mary in the nursery rhyme due to Mary's kindness and excellent care of the young creature. In the far side, happy nursery rhymes rarely remain happy in this twisted take on the famous rhyme. Far side creator Gary Lawson has changed the meaning of the words to indicate that Mary was, in fact, eating a little lamb rather than caring for it. Given how many people eat lamb themselves, the comic was a fitting reflection of people's hypocrisy. Number 6, the five turned saw time side turned a tragic real life event into a joke. People often make jokes about a dingo eating a baby. The story originally came from an Australian woman who blamed the wild dogs for the disappearance of her young child. At the time, her story was believed to be fake, so people felt comfortable laughing about the situation. Unfortunately, the story ended up being true. There are many Far Side comics about dogs, and they are usually quite funny. And this Far Side comic, however, is unusually dark. The juxtaposition of the dingo farm and the baby nursery clearly references the dingo ate my baby expression, with the obvious dark implication that the dingoes would be snacking on more infants. Number 5. Sometimes explosions were too literal in the Far Side. This incredibly dark Far Side cartoon would likely not be published today due to the proliferation of gun violence and mass shootings since its initial publication in 1990. In the comic, an employee of a Marlboro factory has brought a gun to work and has clearly shot several of his co-workers as his unsuspecting boss emerges from his office. Gary Lawson often played with common English expressions in his Far Side comics. This comic references the expression lost his Marlboros as an idealism for someone losing their grip on reality in the 1990s. It was acceptable to laugh at weakened gun violence in the workplace, but these days the reality of the situation is too dark for most audiences. Number 4, clowns in the Far Side were not as funny as the comics. The Far Side often liked to poke fun at different professions by comparing them to their opposite. Scientists display ideologic behavior, or doctors perform acts that are clearly harmful. These ironic comics are often the best Far Side comic strips. In this dark Far Side comic, Lawson has placed a clown in a decidedly unfunny situation. In a scene that might have inspired Jacqueline Phoenix's Joker movie, the clown in this Far Side cartoon goes to a gun store and purchases a gun. The clown's thoughts reveal that he is tired of being laughed at, implying that he intends to shoot people who laugh at him. In the future, of course, such behavior is highly iconic for someone in a profession designed to make people laugh. Number 3, even the Far Side mountain goats don't belong in cloud banks. In his undated Far Side cartoon, Gary Lawson is once again playing around with people's common fears. Many people are afraid of flying because if anything goes wrong, the results are generally catastrophic. Passengers on airplanes place a great deal of trust on both the equipment they are inside and the pilots who are operating the vehicle. The Far Side could often be very subtle in its use of humor, and this comic is a great example of that quality. The reader can initially share the pilot's confusion about why a mountain goat would be in the clouds. It's only after a moment's thought that the reader realizes that the pilots are not, in fact, heading for a cloud bank, but rather for imminent danger. The Far Side made a spider's death tragic. Many Far Side comics about animals are hilarious, but this is not one of them. Comic strips today tend to shy away from incredibly dark subjects unless an important message provides value. To its readers in the 1980s, however, jokes were frequently made about tragic events that many people could find deeply upsetting. The Far Side cartoon is one of the darkest Gary Lawson ever created because it deals graphically with self-harm. Most people don't shed a tear when a spider dies because of that fact. This cartoon might have seemed less impactful to publishers because it features a spider dying. However, it is easy for anyone who has experienced a loss of this type to compare the spider's experience to a human's. The spider's final message of goodbye word makes its death even more tragic and creates empathy for a creature who might otherwise disgust readers who now feel sorrow for its passing. Number one, being cute and innocent doesn't make anyone safe in the Far Side. Humans are hardwired to protect babies, and the idea of a baby coming to harm is extremely upsetting for most people. As a result, some of the darkest Far Side comics are those where harm to babies is either depicted or implied. No type of character was ever safe in the Far Side, no matter how adorable or innocent. In fact, cute innocent creatures were often the most at risk. Some of the Far Side comics have required an explanation to understand. This particular comic expresses an entire story with a single image and no words. The reader can clearly understand that the snake inside the baby's playpen has a baby-shaped lump in its stomach. The idea of a snake eating someone's child is so disturbing that this comic is certainly one of the darkest Far Side comics ever published that still made fans chuckle. Thank you for watching this video and peace out to the next one.